Hello, good evening, everybody. It's your artist, Charlie Newton, here one more time with a free splash art class. We offer splash classes for free to urban youth, and since COVID, we've decided to live stream our art classes. Before we get started, first I want to mention, don't forget to wear your mask. Don't forget, when you wear your mask, you show your concern for others. You protect others because you could have COVID and not even know it. You could be asymptomatic. So let's wear our masks and let's get rid of this virus. Let's think about our neighbor. Also, I'd like to inform you that yesterday we started our fundraiser, our last fundraiser for the year. Splash, again, offers free art classes to at-risk, low-income, urban youth, and others. And whoever wants to take an art class, we believe every child have a right to be creative and to have art in their lives. We also believe that every child should have art in their lives. So we offer free instruction, free materials and supplies, year long to kids. And we have taught literally over the past 10 years, thousands of kids. We teach probably 300 to 500 kids every year. And so we cannot do this without the support of our community. We are a nonprofit, 501c3 nonprofit organization. And so I am so excited about our auction sponsored by Chambliss law firm. I am so excited. Our auction came up online yesterday, and you can bid on artwork by Splash Kids. And what happens is when we sell the art, the child and the family gets half of the money, and so it may help somebody's Christmas be a little bit better this year, and half goes back into our program so that we can continue in 2021 to offer free art classes. So won't you help us? Won't you help a child take an art class? It costs about $100 a month per child to have art classes. And again, our Splash Kids, they take classes free of charge. Normally, we would teach about 60 children every month. That's a normal month, an average month for Splash. 60 individual kids, 4 to 5 classes a week, every week. So please go online and bid on something. Share this with your friends and your neighbors. And I'm calling on the community, our community, and the village, because it takes a village to raise a child. Well, today we're going to look at the artwork of Sam Gilliam, and we're going to try to do a painting sort of like Sam Gilliam. Now, I met Sam Gilliam. Well, I met him for the first time when he came to UTC in the 1970s. Could not understand a word he was talking about. Could not understand his artwork either. But in the 1980s, when I was working on my master's, I began to understand his work a little bit better. And I'll tell you more about it. I'll wax lyrical about Sam as we begin to work. But he was a part of what's called the Washington Colorfield School. So that's like one of the largest movements in America. And he was the only African American at that time a part of that movement. So Sam Gilliam is a very important American artist, maybe the most important living American artist. I think he's probably in his late 70s now. But what Sam did was he took the canvas off of the stretcher for the first time, and he was the first one to begin draping canvases, and that's how he made his mark on American art. So he is a very important artist. Like I said, I believe he's the most important living artist. And he happens to be a black man, and I've met him and had a talk with him a couple of times. So he's still living in Washington, D.C., and he's a very, very world famous artist. So let's go to the drafting table. And what I want to do is, as usual, this is going to be abstract. Color field painting is all about color. It's not so much about the object or the image. It's more about what color could do and how color affects the way we see, how color affects our retinas in our eyes, and how color even, I would venture to say, can affect your mood. And so we're just going to, kids, and you can just be very free and very creative. We're going to do a project where we're going to use glue as well. So if you have some glue, I'm going to use Yes glue or paste. If you have some paste for paper or glue, if you have a pair of scissors, we're going to use these today. And a couple of sheets of paper, 2 sheets of paper. And I think that we may even need the hair dryer. So what we're going to do is try to express ourselves with color. I would say get a wash brush. I'm wanting to see if I have a soft, round brush, a large round brush. And I'm feeling the brush, I'm touching the brush to see how soft it is. And if it doesn't feel like it's going to be soft enough for me, I won't use it. So this flat brush, this brush is a wash brush, and it's a sable, and it's much softer. So I think I'm going to use this brush. And I don't know what I'm going to paint, but I'm just going to start. Remember, I suggest that you start with the light colors first. Now, once you get used to painting, you don't have to do that, but it is a good idea to start with your lighter colors first, because it's easier to go with a darker color on top of a light color. You kids can start painting before I do. We're just going to put an abstract painting down. Well, Sam Gilliam, he draped his paintings, and we're not draping, so we're going to actually cut. He not only draped paintings, and he draped these huge paintings back in the 1960s. And matter of fact, he became famous because he used to use rakes, you know, the kind of rake that you would use to rake leaves. He used that as a paintbrush. And so he got some very thick effects with acrylic paint. He used acrylics. Every major museum has a Sam Gilliam in America. Every major museum. If you don't have a Gilliam, then you're not representing art history. So there's no way you can say you represent American art if you don't have a Gilliam, because he's the most important living African American artist. It's not some of these other artists I know that's come along lately, but what makes Sam important is because he created a new way of doing it. You know, these other guys, like, you know, Kehinde Wiley's art is beautiful, but he hasn't created anything new. What Kehinde Wiley basically did was he took old masters' work and reworked them, and with black images. And so he took Western ideas about, I'm just painting, guys, okay? He took Western ideas about how, what the heroic image looked like, and then he copied those, and there's nothing wrong with that. and redid it, but he hasn't created anything yet. And some may say, well, before him, he's not, we didn't see any heroic images. That's because black people were kept out of major museums and galleries, but there have been plenty black artists that made heroic images of black people, and plenty who had higher skills than Kehinde. Now, I'm not against Kehinde Wiley. I'm just comparing him to Sam Gilliam, and there's no comparison. So we need to give credit where it's due. If there's any parents watching, I'm adamant about splash because I've seen kids who have talent that far outstretch things that you would see in a museum. And what they need is the opportunity to develop their talent. And if the parents don't understand the kids need to develop their talent, then they'll never know, they'll never reach their destiny. And it's because of lack of knowledge. And so one thing Splash does is educates. And that's why we like to do art shows. And I've been waiting on this auction for about 3 years now. And finally, things came together with our good friends at Chambliss. Shouts out to Arisha Gallagher and her team, and Janine and the other guys that I've met on her team who've made this possible for us to do. But we really need the community to support it because when we do these art shows and the kids and the parents see that their child's creativity is valuable, then there's a chance that that child may stay in art. And if you have a talent, why not use it? For me, I started drawing when I was 5, like some of the kids that we teach, and I don't know where I would be without art. Probably in jail. so I know it's important. So you see how I'm just using light colors, and I don't know what I'm painting. I'm just using my eyes and my intuition. I'm not using a large brush. I'm trying to control everything. I started off with a wash, and I'm still basically using a lot of water. But every time you do a line, paint a line, you're drawing. So painting and drawing somehow comes together. Now I want to use a bold color. These colors are pretty bold, but I think I'll use a blue. And what I plan to do is I'm going to paint 2 abstracts. I'm going to try to use similar colors. And then I'm going to cut up one. You know what? I might cut both of them. Let me get it. But I'm going to cut and paste and try to create something different than what I already have. Notice when this water pools, then the paint almost paints itself. Here's another neat thing that you can do. I wanted a bold color, and blue seemed to fit the bill. You can take your paper and make the paint run. This paint's not running. There it is. Depending on how wet it is. You can also blow the paint. Look what happens when I turn on the hairdryer. See? So my paint is pretty thick. I'm going to turn it on higher. So I'm drawing with air. So you can play around with that. I try to have everything that I need on the table. So I never know what I'm going to use. Notice how when I go over a color with another color, the color changes. I went over the yellow with this blue, and now you have a green intermittently here. Now I don't want to, I'm going to get a red. I don't want to use any additional colors than what I have. I have quite a few colors here. See, yellow, blue, orange, red, and magenta. That's 5 colors. That's enough. If I use too many colors, I probably won't have any harmony. See, I just let the water paint the picture. I don't know if you can tell, but a lot of this paint is moving by itself, and I'm allowing that to happen. So like that's pretty wet, so watch what happens when I move the paper. You can also splatter. See, you can do that. I didn't actually want to do that, but I wanted to show you what's possible. So Sam's work was on cloth, then he's worked on vinyl. I think he's working on vinyl now. He did work on wood as well as canvas. When I say cloth, I mean something other than canvas, like material for making clothes, cotton. But he also did these huge paintings on canvas. He was able to translate his art into different materials like tile and clay. And so even though he was a color-filled painter, the way he painted was different from the Barnett Newmans and the people like that. And so they called him a lyrical abstractionist. I'm not sure what they mean by that. I guess in similar ways that Franz Klein may have been lyrical, or a lyrical color-filled painter. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to add water. Because with the work that Sam has been doing recently, his paint has been pretty thin. In the 60s, his paint was very thick. So I think Sam is interested in how the color saturation works. There's another artist who is connected to the abstract expressionist school. His name was Sam Francis. And the way that Sam Gilliam recently, when I say recently, I don't really know what he's doing now, but last I saw, he was doing these, he was draping again, and his paint was on some type of plastic material that was very thin and light. And I think because of his age, he decided not to make paintings that are so heavy, that weigh a few hundred pounds anymore. I think it was just more practical. I'm not sure, but that's what I think. But his paint seemed to be a lot more fluid. Now, the way he sees painting, it's different than the way I see it. I do consider him a master. And so, another story. Like I said, I first met him when he came to UTC and talked, I think it was in Jim Collins' class. And I didn't like his art, and I couldn't understand it. And I probably didn't like it because I couldn't understand it. He was doing what's called the D series, and to this day I don't like the D. That's the only part. The only art that he does that I don't like is his D series. And I talked to him later on I think it was in the 80s, early 80s, and he explained something to me about the D series because I asked him about it. I asked him. He had either he had an exhibition here at the Hunter, or he was judging at the Hunter. Anyway, he was here for some reason, and I took him out to dinner, and at bequest of the museum, and probably because at that time I was doing a lot more at the Hunter than I've been doing recently. And so I had a chance to talk to him. Oh, let me tell you a story before I took him out to dinner. So I'm at Old Dominion University working on my terminal degree. And I had to do some project that was meaningful for my thesis. And as part of the project I was going to invite a famous black artist because I've always been a champion for black art. Since I'm a black artist, that makes sense, doesn't it? But anyway. And so I wanted to bring Sam, since he was only a couple of hours from Old Dominion University. He was in D.C., and I was in Norfolk, Virginia. And I'm just watching kids. You have to watch what's happening. I'm actually thinking about the passages that I like and the passages I don't like. Like, I like this color, how rich it is, but I want to blend it over that magenta a little bit to make it look a little bit more like what Sam is doing today. I want it to be more watery. And aren't these paints beautiful? So I want to highlight the beauty of it. I have some things going on in here, like in this corner, that's more like Charlie Newton, the way I paint. And I'm going to leave it there just so that it looks like me. And I'm going to put this one aside and start on another one. So this part one of the project. Now I'm going to start on another one, but I'm going to use the same colors. And so back to the story. So I wanted to, since DC was right there, and DC was, in my opinion, was a lot more advanced as far as black art and, diversity and all that stuff than Norfolk, Virginia. I was going to go and meet Sam. I actually made an appointment to meet him. And I went to his studio. And I don't know if I couldn't find his studio or what. But at the appointment time, somehow I missed him. And he's a famous artist, so it makes sense that I wouldn't be able to just walk into the studio. And so, man, I was so disappointed about that. And what happened was I had a backup plan. Someone had told me about Frank Smith. And I don't know who told me, maybe somebody in D.C. I was connected to a gallery in D.C. called the Sun Gallery, by the way. And so they told me about Frank Smith. Well, have you tried Frank? I knew nothing about Afrocobra. And what's neat about it is the Afrocobra is the only true African American art movement ever in this country. And well, you could include tagging with that. So, and it was a part of the civil rights movement in Chicago. It started due to civil rights. So I was able to meet Frank Smith, and the rest is history. I ended up learning a lot from the Afrocobra artists. Frank introduced me to Wadsworth Gerald, and these are artists that are just now coming to fore, and they are just now being recognized for their contribution to American art. And I can proudly say that a couple of my mentors are founders of the Afrocobra movement, which is a little bit more important to me than even the color field movement, because Afrocobra is a African American art movement. It's so complex being an African American artist. So complex. So I missed Frank. I missed Sam Gilliam. And it wouldn't be until the 80s, late 80s, that I would actually have a chance to sit down and talk to him about his art. I still barely could understand what he was talking about. And I don't know if he was just being guarded or not. But I asked him about that D series, because I never liked the D series. It seemed so much less to me. I'm going to introduce a new color here. This color, you see we have green that we get from overlaying blue over yellow. But I want another green, a rich green, just for punch. And that's the color that I saw. That's the color I saw in my mind. So we use, kids, when I say intuition, whatever comes to your mind, try it. So I'm introducing one more color on this second sheet, but not much of it at all. And I can also go back on this sheet if I want to and use this shade of green, this value, but I won't. Now what I'm going to try to do is make larger areas of value here. Let's go ahead and do red. Most kids like red, and I'm feeling red today. So when I asked him about, and maybe I shouldn't be telling you, but who are you going to tell? I think so. It don't make a difference. About the D series, he was explaining to me that was an in-between series of paintings that he was doing, and it had a meaning, a special meaning for him, relating to his daughter or something like that. But what I got from our talk is that it's something that he sort of forced, but what it did was it opened doors for him to go into new directions. I don't think he planned for that to happen, but it happened that way. Kids, it's always, you have to keep working. And I'm going to suggest, no matter how good you think you are, find you a teacher. Because there are things that you can learn on your own but where it might take you 10 years to figure it out, a teacher can help you with it in 10 minutes. So no matter how good you think you are, and I know artists have especially young artists, they have this pride thing, which is good. You have to believe in yourself. But the teacher is not teaching you how to be an artist. They're just teaching you things that you don't know. And you may use it and you may not use it. But at least know about it. And that way you can develop your own quicker, easier. Develop your own style. Your own way of expressing yourself. And it needs to make sense. When you begin to start to go to galleries and things, and remember I said things are changing for black artists now. When you begin to go to galleries and things, the important galleries are going to try to put you in context with art history. So if you know art history, either by visiting, like hundreds of art shows, or whatever way you can get the knowledge. And we're here, we're here for kids who can't afford to pay $100, $150, $175 a month for art classes. Plus, you have to buy your own materials. The $100 is for the instruction. The $150 is for the instruction, and then you have to buy your own art supplies. I couldn't do it when I was a child. So that's why I'm so excited about selling the kids' artwork. We frame the works, and the works are beautiful. I think our youngest artist in the auction is 3, if I'm not mistaken. And our oldest artist represented is 19. Can you imagine? I mean, if I had sold some artwork when I was 5 years old, I mean, I got excited when I started selling artwork as a teenager. But can you imagine selling artwork when you're 5 or 8 years old? Can you imagine how you're going to feel about yourself? A lot of times, kids with art ability are very quiet. Some of them, some are not. Some are very loud. But some are very quiet and introverted. I know I was. And I'm still pretty introverted. If you talk, I don't do small talk really well. It's not because I'm mean or think I'm better than somebody. It's just that, I grew up very shy. And that's just my personality. But when it comes to something important, I'm able to speak out if it's important to me. So there are a lot of kids like that, and people that may think that they don't know it. They may think that, they're ignorant, but they may just be really smart. They may be thinkers. So this is different. This one's different than that one. This one's more agitated. This one is a little bit, I may smooth it out even more. So it's easier to see the differences. All of a sudden I have an image here. Okay, I'm just going to do my thing. I have an image here that I see. I'm going to make it easy for everybody else to see. I see an elephant right there. I wasn't trying to do that, but that's just something that I see. So now I have a title for this thing, Elephant Walk. I can't help it. That's the way I create, okay? This is how I do it. Even though I'm trying to do a Sam Gilliam, I just saw that and I was like, wow, that's so neat. So both of these paintings are very wet. I need to dry them. One thing that Sam Gilliam, if you want to know about him, one thing he was telling me about himself is that he always challenges himself to come up with new ideas and new ways of looking at things and new ways of doing things. Man, isn't that a great lesson? That's a lesson for you and I. Excuse me. So this paint, I don't know if you can see this, but if we can get a close-up of that, in this area here, you can see the paint, these overlays, or you might call them glazes. They're more like overlays. And you can see colors coming through. Also, you can see the edge of the of this drip or whatever that is. The blow dryer moved this paint, and so the edge is a little darker, like a line drawn around it. You can see the same thing happening here and in other places. On this one, you can see a similar thing here. It's sort of like the paint pooling and then drawing a line around itself, tracing itself. So you have passages like that. Now, I don't know. You have to be brave when you're doing art. So I'm trying to decide if I should just, and what I've decided to do, I've decided to cut these both up and then glue them down on a separate sheet of paper. That way, I'm not going to have control. As a matter of fact, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn the paper over so I can't see where I'm cutting. See, I'm challenging myself. You have to challenge yourself in life. And I'm making sure that I'm going to have to be creative to make this work. You have to be brave when creating abstract, especially abstract pictures, or paintings that have meaning to you. I'm working on a huge painting in my studio, and one thing I had to do today is make a decision. I'm going to paint this thing this way. You know, I don't have to paint it. You know, I'm eclectic anyway. But my heart said, don't paint it, you know, the same way you painted the last picture. You know, paint it this way. And when I started painting a certain way, I remembered having seen some art by years ago there was a a black painter that worked at UTC. I don't even know his name. I think he was only there, maybe, I don't even know if he was there for 2 years. But I saw one of his paintings, man, I love the way he applied his paint to the canvas. And so, I don't know, that may have been in my subconscious mind. And so when I started painting a certain way today, all of a sudden I noticed that, man, this is like that guy's art. Not the subject matter, but the way that I was painting the picture. So I should get I may get 2 paintings from this. Or I may just get 1, I don't know. So now, I'm going to draw on my African American heritage. And I'm going to use a quilt making technique. I'm going to mix these up. This could be a sculpture. You could do a sculpture like this. If I can just get started, I'm just going to lay some things down. I really like that. So I like that. All of a sudden I saw something I like, and I'm going to use this. It's called Yes Glue. It's an artist paste. It's very tacky. I'm probably using too much glue on this. This stuff is very tacky. I really don't want it on the table. But so what? I think that curve there, how it met this curve, is what attracted me. So my focus is really high right now. I'm really focused, but I'm using my eyes, okay? So now I've started. I mean, starting is half the battle. Remember, I have no idea what this is going to look like. I am thinking about balance in terms of color. Sam Gilliam, his work was huge. Now, even though his work is large, he may have done smaller sketches like this. I could call this a sketch, and it could be in preparation for something larger. Matter of fact, I think I will make it a preparation for a large sculpture. I've been thinking about a certain sculpture that I created on paper. You have to have thick skin, kids, when you're artists. What I mean by thick skin. You can't let things hurt your feelings so much that you can't do anything. A lot of kids, you give up too fast. Don't give up. Because when you give up, you never know what's coming in the future. So this right here, this little thing I'm doing now, it reminded me that I've been thinking about a sculpture that I wanted to do, a wall piece that was composed of, it was going to be made out of metal. I was going to have some abstract pieces and a figure coming out. I'm not going to, I might give somebody some ideas. But anyway, it was an idea that I had for a commission, and it was not received well. But the idea is awesome. The idea is really good. And why they didn't receive it, and it beats me. But at some point, I'm going to do that piece. And I'm going to probably get paid 10 times the amount that they were going to pay me anyway. Because my artwork is worth more now than it was then, a couple of years ago. The value of my work has gone up. So maybe I should do it differently. It was going to, than I was going to do it slightly differently. I think I will do it slightly differently now. Now that I'm doing this is like, wow, I should do it like like this. I'm going to let this go off the page now. So I just got a great idea doing this, guys. Thank you. Thank you, Splash, for letting me teach. Thank you, guys, for supporting. That's the other Splashite. So now my idea from 2 or 3 years ago, and it would have been in a public space in Chattanooga. It's even better now. It has just grown. And I have there's another sculpture that I'm supposed to make. And I think I can incorporate what I'm learning now. That's why I tell kids, you have to do not miss class. And some kids will come to 2 or 3 classes a week. Some will only come to 1 class, which is fine. But a lot of times, we have to go get the kids and all that kind of stuff. But it's your talent, it's your art. Believe in yourself. If you don't believe in you, no one else will. How you treat yourself and how you treat your art. Some kids, when they first come to class, they might do something like really good. I said, that's great. That's great, young lady. First thing they'll do, if they want to take it home, they'll fold it up. I said, don't fold it. This is your art is valuable. Why can't we adults, why can't we help the kids know that their creativity is valuable? Support the arts. Chattanooga is a place full of awesome art activities. You know what? I'm going to do something. This is turning into a design. And that's the good thing about Sam. When he draped canvas, now the question is, first of all, he took it off of the stretchers. And artists had been wrestling with the concept of that rectangle for years. And Sam was the first to, in thinking about it, history books are not going to tell you this, but I'm going to tell you. He was the first to do it. He was the first to solve that problem. Later came people like, what's the lady's name that did the horses where she split the canvas? Susan Rothenberg. Susan Rothenberg came along later. She did not take, and she still hasn't taken the canvas off of the stretcher, but she solved that problem of the rectangle by drawing a line straight down the middle. She painted horses, and then she painted a line straight down the middle. And what that did was that, and you know, an art critic or art historian can explain this better than I, okay? But, and I haven't considered her work. I haven't even thought about her in years. But the way I understand it, what that did is that flattened that space out. It flattened the canvas out, and it described that flat two-dimensional space, which is basically, she defeated that rectangle by doing that. And she became famous for doing that, splitting that rectangle. Now, I have several paintings in this. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to overlap some things. And that's what I wanted to get to. I want to see what happens when I start overlapping. So this doesn't look like Sam Gilliam's work, but I have been influenced and inspired. Before I cut it up, it was like Sam Gilliam. If I would just put it back together like a puzzle, it would still look like Sam Gilliam. But since I started thinking about this sculpture that I'm going to do, now you can see that it is influenced by Sam Gilliam, and actually it's influenced by his D series, actually, when I think about it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start painting again. I'm going to allow this to stick up, allow these to overlap and stick out a little bit. I'm going to glue one more down, one or two more before I paint. Because I'm leaving mental messages for myself. I can't wait to apply this idea to my sculpture. And I'm not going to explain the idea, but this has given me an idea. So kids, when you're making your art, you'll have ideas for other art. You don't have to do everything in one picture. So that's why it's good to make art every day, draw every day. I mean, no one had to convince me to draw. And some of you kids, some of you guys, you draw every day anyway. That's what you do. It makes you feel better. When you're upset, it calms you, just like it does me. When you're sick, it helps you to forget that you're sick, just like it does for me. And you use art for therapy, just like I do. So that's no problem for you. And some of you kids watching me, and some of your parents are watching me. You know a child who draws every day or paints every day, and that child should be in Splash. Oh yes, that child should be in Splash. Okay, I'm going to do something that a lot of you kids will probably like. I'm going to use red. I'm going to use a lot of red. Well, maybe not a lot. I'm going to use, yeah, I'll use red first. And then I may use black. Because I want this thing to pop. I'm not trying to make anything perfect here. Okay? As you can see. You see how two paintings have made a different one? I still have a lot of these things left. So I probably have several paintings left. Okay, I'm going to use red and black. I'm going to do it. I just had an idea of the yin-yang sign. When you're making art, everything that you do in life, everything that you're involved in, like I do Tai Chi, and one of the tenets of Tai Chi is the yin and yang sign. Everything has the possibility of becoming its opposite. It's like a male and female sign. Every male has some female, every female has some male. Now, just for fun, like I say, you have to be bold to be an artist. I'm going to see if black works. It may not. It may mess it up. But that's what I have in my mind, so I'm going to try it. It's going to be different anyway. It's going to be different. Sam Gilliam said the hardest thing for him is to keep coming up with new ideas. And that's what he really works on. And evolving. And one of the lessons that I've learned from 2020 is be willing to change. Matter of fact, look to change. Why go through all this and we stay the same? Look to love your neighbor. Look for social justice. Treat everybody the way you want to be treated. Look to be creative, learn new skills. I haven't learned that many new skills though, but except I learned how to paint live online and talk while painting. Hopefully I do better demonstrations. Take advantage of this time to be with your family. There are things more valuable than stuff, like your creativity. Okay. That's different, isn't it? That's going to be a wrap. That's going to be a wrap. Okay, so there's a lot happening here. These colors look like it's floating, but we know that these are on the left side is on the same plane because it's on one sheet of paper as the black side, but the colors are making these shapes pop, and the black field is more, it feels more ethereal, like open space, where the red on this side seems to be flatter, and it brings this floor forward, this side, the left side forward, so you have a push and pull going on here, like that. So visually, that's what I see happening. And as always, write your name. And look at how much stuff I have left. I have all these left. I can do at least another one, maybe two more. Maybe two more with these. So we was looking at Sam Gilliam and the Colorfield School, and I mentioned the D series, and somehow I almost see this D shape here. See the D shape? So just thinking about it, my right brain was turned on, and that's where your subconscious mind is. And when we make art, we use our right brain. It's right brain thinking. And so we're using our full capacity, brain capacity, to make art. And that's probably why, even though I didn't notice it, you know, I have I've made a painting that looks more like Sam Gilliam's D series. But what Sam would do, he would actually put a D in the corner of his painting. Okay, but all this has been inspired by Sam Gilliam, and one day I'll probably do a huge drapery in the other room, in the other studio, just for fun, so that you guys can see that. I see that I left a little spot here, but remember to get your parents to, and if you're an adult, please go online and look at the kids' artwork for the auction. You know, contribute to this programming that these kids so desperately need. And it's money well spent. You don't know what you can do for a child's confidence by spending $50 on their artwork. And you're going to be surprised when you see the art. They are framed, they are beautiful, they are all hanging at Chambliss. And on the 15th, we're going to have a live auction. So it's been fun. I'm Charlie Newton, your splash artist. And until next time, remember, art is for everyone. Bye-bye.